Hello, I'm Stuart McNish, and you're listening to Conversations Live. Conversations Live is a long-form public affairs dialogue series addressing the big issues of our time. For each episode, we bring together subject matter experts for a deep conversation designed to provide you with information that helps you make more informed decisions. I hope you enjoy it. Welcome to this special edition of Conversations Live. Today we come to you from the traditional territories of the Tsleil-Waututh, Musqueam, and Squamish First Nations. Joining me today is Dan Fumano of the Vancouver Sun, along with Sean Hall, our Slido master. Now, to send us a question via Slido, please go to slido.com and enter the password conversations and then send in your question. Well, Mr. Mayor, I want to thank you for agreeing to join us for this look back and look forward. And I particularly want to thank you for not imposing any restrictions on this conversation.
We did?
No.
You said it's Maria? No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's a compliment to you. Mayor Eby was Premier Eby was the same, and you're one of the few who is in a position of authority like this who says, bring it on.
Bring it on, yeah.
Thank you for that. That said, we have a lot to get to, so let's get started. And we always like to start with a poll from our pollster, Mario Canseco. Amy, can you please roll that
For almost half of Vancouverites, housing is the most pressing concern facing the city at this time. Housing is by far the key issue for residents of the East Side, the West Side, and downtown. Drug overdoses are the only other issue to reach double digits on a citywide basis, followed by crime and taxes. Concerns about public safety are higher in the West Side, while almost 1 in 4 residents of the downtown area are worried about drug overdoses. Just over half of Vancouverites are satisfied with the way Ken Sim is managing his duties as mayor. Sim's rating reaches 57% in the west side of the city, but is lower in the 2 other areas. It is important to note that just over 1 in 5 residents of Vancouver are not sure when asked about the mayor, a number that rises to 36% among those who reside in the downtown area. Looking back on the past 12 months, there are 3 issues where residents appear dissatisfied with the pace of change. 3 in 5 Vancouverites think housing affordability is worse than it was before Ken Sim took office, and more than 2 in 5 feel the same way about their quality of life, as well as the decisions that have been made to manage homelessness and public safety. There are 3 issues where a third of Vancouverites report a worsening situation: the influence of developers, the cleanliness of streets and road maintenance, and jobs and economic development. In each of these cases, residents are more likely to say that things are the same as they were before the ABC majority took control of City Council. Fewer than 3 in 10 Vancouverites report things getting worse on 4 other issues: fiscal responsibility, public schools, parks and facilities, and public recreation and activities. While there are no sizable increases in the number of residents who feel things are better now than they were a year ago, just over 1 in 5 report a decline when it comes to facilities and recreation opportunities. For Conversations Live, I'm Mario Canseco from ResearchGo.
So, Mr. Mayor, it's been 367 days since you were sworn into office, and when you took the oath of office, you said, "We heard loud and clear the people want change, and change is here. I'm going to strive to be that mayor." That's what you said, the one that unites our city. Mm-hmm. Success can only be achieved if we are fearless in the face of failure.
Yeah.
You know, when you came into this job, you had come from the corporate environment. You were CEO. You were used to having complete authority. Mm-hmm. A year in, are you surprised at how different it is when you're in City Hall and how much authority you actually have?
No, it's the same. I don't think you get authority by a title that you have. You have to earn it. And, be it, public sector, private sector, government, not-for-profits, at the end of the day, these are all organizations and it's all about the people. And so, you can't force people to do stuff. You have to, provide a vision and inspire people. And so that's what we're working on.
And do you think that you've been able to accomplish that you've been able to give people that sense of swagger, as you like to say, that the city is coming back?
Well, look, I think I think we're in a better position that we were a year ago, but make no mistake about it, we have a lot of work to do. What work have we done? Well, we committed to doing 94 things. We put it in our platform, and the city gave us a resounding, yes by electing myself as mayor, but also our entire team. And so after 1 year, we've hit about 40 of those 94 things. Some of those items you'll see an immediate impact. Some of these things take time. So the cup fee, we got rid of it. It's gone. So you don't have to pay 25 cents per cup. Now, people don't think that's a big deal, but that's actually, $22, $23 million a year. We stopped the road tax, and that was a real thing. That was $250 million setup fee plus $50 to $100 million a year, and it would have devastated businesses in the downtown core. We made the commitment towards public safety by hiring 100 police officers and 100 mental health nurses. People didn't think that was possible. Well, I can say that we've hired 104 police officers.
I think it's 116 now.
I was going to say, I think that's the new number.
Yeah.
3 weeks ago, it was 104. And by the way, let's be very clear here. We still have to hire more because there's attrition. People retire. So we're not at that 100 additional yet, but we've made significant progress, and people didn't think that was possible. And there have been, things that haven't gone as fast as we wanted them to. So the 100 mental health nurses, once we gave that to, the Vancouver Coastal Health Authority, because they're the experts, they said, well, actually what we could use is 58 mental health workers. And they've been trying to hire, and we've hired about 10. And so we're having some positive impact with those 10. But we need to move a lot faster. And by the way, I do want to say, so thankful for the provincial government for stepping up and taking that on, and so thankful for Vancouver Coastal for them hiring and working on it. So we're working really hard. We just have challenges. And so, I can go on and on.
Well, we do have challenges. Douglas Todd, in the Vancouver Sun journalist, called the situation on Downtown Eastside a wicked problem.
Mm-hmm.
There isn't an easy answer.
No, there isn't.
Yeah.
Some things we can triage in the short term. Some of these things will take a generation. That's just the reality. And it's going to take all three levels of government, and it's going to take the community as well. We just choose to start dealing with the issues now and working with the senior levels of government for support. They've been great. I just want to say they've been great. There are things going on behind the scenes, and we're working collaboratively together. So, to paint a situation, first of all, to give you context, I think after the election, a lot of people across this province wondered whether or not we could work with the provincial government because of how, things went during the election. And I can tell you, they've been incredible partners. I think we've been pretty good partners to them, and we've been working collaboratively on a lot of things. And one great example is 90 units of workforce housing. We are presented with a situation where we had to get it approved or we'd lose it. We did that in 2 hours in council. And, some of our, what people think are our traditional supporters weren't too enthusiastic about it. But we've made the commitment to the city that we're going to do what we believe is right. And it was right to, support that housing so people can get off the streets and on the road to recovery.
I'm going to hand you over to Dan Fumano at the moment.
Stu? So as we heard from Mario Canseco at the outset here, housing remains a top concern for a lot of Vancouverites. Mm-hmm. I would say the 3331 promise was kind of a cornerstone of ABC's housing platform in the last election. I was in your office last week, and you've got it up on the board on your wall as one of your daily focuses. And you walk us through it. It's 3 days to approve a renovation permit for a renovation.
Yeah.
3 weeks for a house or a duplex, to approve a house or a duplex.
Yeah.
3 months for a mid-rise
and low-rise
kind of project. Yeah. And 1 year for a high-rise project or a larger project.
That's amazing. Yeah.
So obviously speeding things up, more efficiency is a big kind of part of your platform. Mm-hmm. Now that you've been at City Hall for a year and have a more of an understanding of how things work behind the scenes, do you still feel like those targets are achievable?
Yeah.
Which of those, sorry to cut you off, but which of those 4 do you think will be the hardest, and which which do you think you can kind of hit first?
I don't know which one's going to be the hardest, but I do think they're all achievable, and I actually think we can do better. And so all we're talking about, this is just simple workflow. We have incredibly complicated workflow and, conflicting bylaws, and it's just a dog's breakfast. And I can tell you, we've already put a lot of work into it. So we've embedded 3331 into the system now, and a couple of things we've done, going from 9 RS zones to 1 RS zone. For your audience, basically, we have 9 different ways or 9 different ways of approving permits to build a house in the city, to make it overly simplistic. What that does for people that want to build and architects that actually want to make up plans, it's actually really, really complicated. And it's not just 9 times more complicated, it's exponentially more complicated. And we went from 9 to 1 in areas pretty much almost all across the city. And so that speeds up the process. We have a couple of hundred bylaws that our team at the City of Vancouver has been reviewing that they're going to literally take off the table. So, we can continue to give you all these little wins that we've done. And, if you keep plugging away over time, you make the process simpler. Now, we pointed to 3331, 3 weeks to build a single family home. We're talking about 3 weeks in our current state with our current technology. I do want your viewers to know that there is technology out there in the world that we can leapfrog this stuff. For example, in Australia, they're approving single family home permits in 12 seconds with the use of AI. So let's have that conversation as well. So do I think we can achieve it? Absolutely. Do I think we can do better? Absolutely.
So if you had to guess, when do you think will be the first time that a mid-rise project gets approved in under 3 months? Is that going to happen during this 4-year term? During next year?
I don't think it's going to happen in the next year. And it's not binary. It's not a 1 or a 0 where all of a sudden you're going to wait 6 years and then 3 months. I think what you'll see is over time, the process will get faster and faster and faster. And then one day you'll wake up and it's actually really fast.
It looks like it's slowing down a little bit right now. If you go to the City of Vancouver permits issued for this year, it's about 1,000 fewer than last year at the same time.
Yeah.
What happened?
I don't know, but see, I think that's the wrong metric to be tracking as well, because it's not the number of permits you issue. I think last year we celebrated, last year we celebrated the fact that we issued more permits than ever before. But and it doesn't even matter if that stat is right or wrong, that's the wrong metric. The real metric should be the speed of issuing the permits. So let's say we issued 100,000 permits in the city of Vancouver, but it took us 12 years. Well, guess what? Every single person that was waiting for a permit, guess what? Their pro formas have totally changed. They don't know where their demand is. They don't know where the cost of the raw materials are. They probably went through 3 financing cycles. So that's a completely useless metric. It's how quickly can you issue that permit from when someone applies to when it gets issued, because that actually will dictate whether or not those projects will be successful.
So I'm really curious to hear what Michael Geller's reaction is to that. Michael, you can take the microphone, please.
When I speak to staff, they often mention one of the problems is just dealing with the backlog. Mm-hmm. And I often think we should do what they used to do in libraries, where they'd say, okay, folks, if you've got books out there, you can bring them back and there'll be no fine. Mm-hmm. I almost think we should just get rid of the backlog just to prove it. Because as someone once said, oftentimes the city takes 2 years to approve a project. Mm-hmm. And when it's built, most people don't like it anyway.
Yeah.
Practical solution?
Yeah, you know what? And here's the great thing. What we've told the city is we're going to crowdsource our solution. So that's actually a very legitimate, solution to the challenges we have. And so we'll take that back.
So I'd like to call in Sean right at the moment. Sean, there's a couple of questions that have come in from Slido around transit. Maybe you could read number 3 there.
Yeah, thank you, Stu. It's a question from Melissa Phelps. While Vancouver Transit is decent, limited funding for bus stops leads to a poor rider experience, lower ridership, and increased car usage. Would you support boosting funding for waiting areas?
Well, and that also adds to topics about transportation infrastructure. Mm-hmm. What's your plan on being able to start to get away from the increasing gridlock that we're seeing in so many different areas of the city?
Yeah, so most of the transit issues that we deal with, we have to look at it from a regional perspective. So, it's a TransLink issue. And so TransLink doesn't stop at Boundary and the bridges. And so we look at it holistically. So I've always said that Vancouver has to be a great partner to the region. And from a purely selfish perspective, to give you an illustrative example, would love to build the UBC line, the extension out to UBC. It makes sense on so many levels. But if we look at this place as a region, is that necessarily the best answer? I can't answer that, but we rely on TransLink and all the mayors that sit on the council to figure out where the next piece of infrastructure should be, and should it be south of the Fraser, where it may not directly help us, but indirectly actually helps us address a bunch of different issues. Because if we actually can provide more mobility to individuals south of the Fraser, and we connect them to the city of Vancouver, all of a sudden it actually supports our businesses and people that want to work in the city, but who can't afford to live in the city yet, as we work on the housing challenges. So it's a long way of saying it's complicated, and we can't just look at Vancouver in isolation.
So that's the TransLink portion of that equation. But what can the city do to create better flow for those people who are forced into cars because there isn't an adequate amount of service through TransLink? Or are we built out?
Built out
as far as our road systems are concerned, and being able to create better flow of traffic.
It's beyond my pay grade to give you the micro answers, but what I can say, no, because we talk about it all the time. So it's not as simple as saying, hey, we need more bus stops or what have you, because there are competing interests for that. For example, we want patios for our restaurants, as an example. We want parking for our stores, and we want better flow of transit, which means you take out the parking and you take out the patios. And so there's a balancing act here, and we can't just say one or the other. We actually have to be a lot more thoughtful, because I can tell you, putting in that extra bus stop somewhere actually may make the difference between the survival or the failure of 10 shops on that block. And we work with the BIAs to talk about these issues as well.
Dan?
Well, on the subject of parking, there's a report going to council next week. I imagine you've seen it, where staff are recommending doing away with minimum parking requirements for new developments in the West End and in the Broadway corridor area, following a similar move a number of years ago for downtown. So to some people, it might sound crazy. They think, oh, it's already so difficult to find parking in the Broadway area and the West End. So the idea of new buildings having fewer underground parking spots might seem crazy. But as you're touching on, these things are all trade-offs. And obviously ensuring the viability of development projects has been a big priority for you. So do you want to tell us where you stand on the idea of parking minimum requirements for new buildings? Is it something that would make sense in the West End and Broadway? Maybe even more broadly around the city? Do you have a thought about this?
Yeah. Okay. And so full disclosure, I haven't had a chance to read that yet. So, these things
You got the weekend. You got
we got the weekend. That happens Sunday night at about 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
So I can talk from a 30,000 foot level.
Sure.
No, we have to look at our challenges differently. Look, we have to build more housing, and we can't have our roads can't support more cars. So we build more housing, but then we have to look at our transportation infrastructure. We have to look at multimodal infrastructure, bike lanes that we can use, scooters on as well. And then being innovative or looking at challenges differently. So, it's not as if we're going to get a bunch of different subway lines in the downtown core, but what we can do is we can pull off examples, let's say in Hong Kong, where they use short buses to connect neighborhoods into our rapid transit and then feed from there. So look, there are a lot of innovative solutions that we can pull on from around the planet, but make no mistake about it, we have to build more. And it's not as if we're going to put more cars on the road.
You can read about this issue in tomorrow's Vancouver Sun and Province.
Awesome. Just let me know how I should vote. Is that what? I didn't say that. Sorry.
So what's the reality of single family housing in Vancouver now going forward? Is it a relic of the past?
Well, let's look out 100 years.
Yeah.
100 years, I'd be shocked if there are very many single-family homes in the city of Vancouver
Left.
left.
Yeah.
Because even if they were around, they're going to be unaffordable because if they're going to pay their fair share of property taxes, it's going to be unaffordable. Like you look at Hong Kong and there's some single family homes there, and I'm sure they pay $1 gazillion in property taxes. And if someone wants to do that, knock your socks off. But I don't think, everyone but maybe 12 people in the city of Vancouver will be able to afford that. No, we're getting serious about, the fact that there are going to be more people that live in the city of Vancouver. We have 500,000 people coming to the country every single year, and I fully support that. If we want to maintain our standard of living, we have to support immigration. By the way, we're a country of immigrants. We're all immigrants here. So a lot of them are going to come to Vancouver. And so if we think that we're going to be able to support that by keeping single family homes all over the city, it doesn't make a lot of sense. If you want a single family home, and look, I love single family homes. I don't think it's practical. We have billions trillions of dollars of infrastructure here. We are now a global city. If you want to have a single family home with a huge yard and a picket fence, you know what? Do it in 99.8% of the rest of the province where that is possible. We're building world-class here. And if we want to have world-class hospitals and a police force and businesses and restaurants and not-for-profit organizations, we have to have people who are able to afford to live in the city of Vancouver and the surrounding area.
You thankfully brought up the topic of property tax, which we saw increase 10.7% last year.
Yeah.
And then you pulled together a task force, said that they were going to scrutinize everything and then come back with a report on October the 3rd and present it to council on October the 17th.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the report?
It's coming.
And what do you know about what it's going to say about rising property tax rates?
I have no idea what it's going to say. What we did was we asked a task force to be set up, and it's stacked with 24 of arguably some of the smartest people in the country working on this. We gave them no guardrails. We said, look, we don't want to hold you back because it wouldn't be fair to the city of Vancouver. And so they're going to surprise us. And then we, as a council and mayor, have to deal with it. So there's no hiding from it. So we're going to be surprised like everyone else, and I'm fine with that. When it comes to the 10.7% property tax increase, that's something that if I were to look at the last year, it was a failure on my part to communicate what that actually meant. So yes, it was a 10.7% property tax increase. There's no denying that. But what I failed to articulate is the fact that a lot of the property taxes that we collect are for Metro, TransLink, and the provincial school tax that has nothing to do with the city of Vancouver. We do not control it. We have literally no control over it. What a 10.7% property tax increase means to the average condo owner is 33 cents a day. To the average homeowner, it means 83 cents a day. To put that in context, if you live in a condo and there's two of you that go to Tim's every single day, we actually made life a little more affordable for you because we saved you 50 cents a day. And you got a 33 cent per day property tax increase that went to fully fund a police force for the first time in 15 years, fully fund a fire department for the first time in 8 years. We are replenishing the capital reserves. And to give your viewers context, we have a $500 million capital deficit in the city of Vancouver. If we kick it down the road like other administrations have, there could be a situation where we can't flush toilets in the city of Vancouver in certain areas in the next 20 years. We're replenishing the reserve fund, which was almost ground down to zero because of COVID. And so these are things that we're doing. And that's just the cut fee and a condo owner's property taxes. We also, like I said, got rid of the road tax. That was $250 million plus $50 to $100 million a year. We stopped the building of a fifth bike lane 200 yards away from Broadway. Look, I'm a cyclist. I love cycling. I don't think we need a fifth bike lane within 200 yards of Broadway at a cost of $20 million a year. We got rid of the Vancouver Economic Commission, which was $3 million a year, where there's duplication of effort. So the list goes on and on. So we've actually, despite what you see out there, and I take full responsibility because I failed to properly communicate it, we have done a lot of things from a fiscally responsible side while still making sure that we're empathetic and kind, and we do not forget all the social things that we want to achieve as well.
Dan, I cut you off. Sorry about that. You had another question.
Just to go back to the subject of, well, I guess I'll build on that for now while we're talking about property taxes, because looking forward, even beyond, when we get the report from the mayor's task force and we see what efficiencies they're able to find. But, city staff, as you know, have estimated that because of these fiscal pressures, this inflationary environment, you've got arbitrated wage increases. They were forecasting that over the next 5 years, in the current kind of environment, you might be looking at an average of a 9% increase every year for the next 5 years to property taxes. Do you think that is the likely kind of scenario for the next 3 years during the current term? 9% a year increases? Or how much confidence do you have in this task force and in you and your staff and council to find efficiencies that might be able to avoid those kinds of increases?
Yeah. So look, we're not miracle workers here, but what I can tell you is we take a fiscally responsible lens to everything we do. Now, we cannot control inflation. If interest rates are running at 10%, if we come in at 9%, I think that's a win. I'm not saying that's happening. I'm giving you an illustrative example. Okay. So I don't want to freak everyone out.
News alert.
And so we have to deal. And by the way, the uncontrollables, there's nothing we can do. We can control the controllables. So we do not control inflation. We do not control, the price of concrete, and we have to buy it in the free market like everyone else. And we build stuff. So those are the things we don't control. We do not control, for the most part, salary increases for the VPD and Vancouver Fire, because they get negotiated in other jurisdictions. And then we're put in the situation. Do we want to meet market, or do we want to have a labor dispute, shut down the city, and then agree to what was going to happen anyways? And so I think, if the taxpayers of Vancouver are upset because we did what was prudent based on what we could do, then, there's not much we can do about it. Now, that being said, we're thinking out of the box as well. And the best example is the Stanley Park train. We were presented with the situation where the train wasn't going to work. We were probably going to shelve it. And this was 6 months ago, by the way. We didn't have the money. We didn't have the expertise. We had supply chain issues. There weren't the parts. We're like, no, you know what? That's not the right answer. And so we picked up the phone, and we actually we had commitments for $1 million for the train. And so we took the money off the table, and it wouldn't cost the taxpayers of Vancouver a dime. Then we went to the community and said, who's the expert in trains? Jeff Stibbard. He's actually one of the smartest guys in trains in North America. So he came in and he helped us give us advice. He worked with the park board. He worked with us. And guess what? Not only do we have, we don't have the full set, but we have one train subject to an inspection. It's going to start running on November 30th. We also did it for $500,000. Like, I know 650 is out there, but part of that was, it was going to happen anyways. So we also came under budget. So we were actually responsible for other donors' money. And so that's the attitude we are taking to the city of Vancouver. So when you look, if we go current state with their projections, our team, you are awesome, by the way. If it looks like 9%, we're going to do other things where we can generate revenue that it's not going to affect taxpayers, where we can get that number down. For example, naming rights on buildings and parks. Okay. They do it at universities right now. Why don't we do it here? Why don't we actually have, actually, I won't mention that one right now. That's not fully baked. I don't want to get myself in trouble yet.
Come on, we already have.
But so we don't have to follow the traditional box that we've been following for the last 100 years. We could look at things differently.
Okay. So last night I'm walking home and I need to stop at the bank at an ATM. It's not even 7:00 at night. I can't get in the building to where the ATM is because the door is locked. Mm-hmm. The door is locked because the bank is protecting itself against endless vandalism and crime that's associated with that. Mm-hmm. Ian Tostenson is here with us. He's part of a group that just last week came and said, we need help. Ian, you have a question for the mayor?
Well, it is more of a comment. What the mayor is saying about process here is actually, in fact, happening. And the mayor, with vision, put together a hospitality group and gave us the responsibility to come up with some innovation. And I think you said to me before the election, we're going to put smarter guys than me in the room to solve this. And we've got a group of people that are doing it. But more importantly is that you've created a culture shift at the city with the staff because they're not used to this. And it's really making some changes. And we're going to see some really refreshing changes in hospitality because of that. And so that's number one. I want to say thank you for that. It's working.
Well, thank you for stepping up and doing it. So you're part of the solution. You're part of the solution, actually. So thank you.
The Safe Street thing is Safe Street Coalition. We need to put some emphasis on that. I think we all know what the issues are. It's a big group. But again, another comment is that we're committed to our city. And there's a group of people that are very committed to the city, but we'll get support from the city and the BIAs. So there's not really a question except for a comment. Don't get rid of natural gas. Keep our natural gas.
So last year in one of our crime panels, John Mead from JJ Bean was talking about the impact that street crime has on him and his businesses. And he just closed down one of his stores at the old Woodward site. Cost him a lot of money to get out of a lease that he was losing money on. And when asked last year, does that mean that you're not opening new stores? He says, oh, no, I'm still opening new stores, just not in the city of Vancouver. So what do we do to get somebody like John to come back and believe that there's a good retail environment for him to be able to operate in?
Well, we have to give him a good retail environment to operate.
Well, exactly. But how do we get there?
Right. And the businesses and the communities that, are dealing with the, crime and the other issues.
It's a real thing. We're not hiding from it at all. That's why we were elected. And that's why, that's why it's a focus. So what have we done? Oops. Is that better?
Yeah.
So we're triaging the current situation. That's where the police officers comes in. That's where the mental health workers come in. And we have more work to do on the mental health worker side of things. But that just triages. If that's all we do, we're in a lot of trouble. And so a lot of these issues that we have are actually not City of Vancouver responsibilities. They're provincial or federal. Now, hold on. Before we say, look, we've heard every single politician say that before. I'm just explaining it. I still think that as Mayor of Vancouver and our council, that's just another challenge. Okay. It's still happening in the City of Vancouver and we have to own it. And so how do we do it? We become great partners to the province and the federal government, and we work collaboratively with them, and we show them this is why it's important. I can tell you, the province, they've been great partners, and we've been working on a lot of things together, more to come. That one of the big challenges we have, in very simplistic terms, is this whole catch and release, right? And so that's something that we've been lobbying with the province for the feds to make a change, because I tell you, we're running into situations where people are getting arrested 500, 600, 700 times and nothing happens. And so even if we have a benchmark, until we deal with the issue, like even if the benchmark was like 200 times, let's pick a ridiculous number. After your 200th time, maybe we should identify the person and say, you know what, maybe you have a significant mental health issue and you really need help. Or maybe you're just a jerk and you shouldn't be on the streets. Because I can tell you, when you Pareto chart this thing, it's only about 50 to 100 people that are causing a lot of, the challenges that we have on the street. And if it's a humanitarian healthcare issue, let's take care of our people. And if it's not, let's deal with that problem.
So I know it was an American initiative going back to the 1990s, 3 strikes and you're out. 200 is a long way from 300. How come we can't seem to get into that kind of line of thinking that you can't just let people go time after time after time after time?
Yeah, it's up to us, and not just us as government. It's so important that the residents of Vancouver, the BIAs, all the industry groups, people that work in the healthcare field, we very pragmatically, objectively, without politics, we actually go and, we plead our case to the federal government. And if we do that, I think we go a long way. I give you a different example. When we won the election and we ran the table with all of our elected officials, and we won by a lot, one of the things that we said was super important was Chinatown. And what happened after we won, I think a lot of people took notice. And you know what you saw? You saw the province and the federal government step up. The province gave Chinatown, I think, $2.1 million. The federal government gave Chinatown $1.9 million. They all show up, all political parties of all political stripes, they show up to the Chinatown parade. So it got on the radar. We can do that with our other challenges as well, be it housing or, street disorder or mental health issues or what have you. But we have to let our voice be heard. And that's bigger than the mayor. Like, we can facilitate some of it, but it's when the advocacy groups, they step up as well, because you have power in the community, and exert that power, exert your voice, let your voice be heard.
Yeah. Okay. To go back a little bit, when we were talking about, single family houses and single family zoning. Of course, as we know, a lot of Vancouver's land is dedicated to mostly single family houses and some duplexes. And to clarify, when you talk about 100 years, thinking about 100 years in the future of Vancouver, are you still the mayor of Vancouver in 100 years?
No, hopefully I'm alive in 100 years, but I don't think anyone would be well served if I was the mayor.
So, on the subject of single-family zoning, obviously your council has recently passed a motion that would allow up to 6 units on a lot of single-family lots, depending on the size. And then more recently, the ABC Majority Council approved a rental building, an apartment building in Dunbar, over some considerable neighborhood opposition. But, it was, I think, keeping the streak of having approved every rezoning that has come to council. And so next week, I wanted to ask about, there's a motion, it's not coming from an ABC councillor, but from Christine Boyle, a councillor with One City, is bringing a new motion that would direct staff to look at densifying Shaughnessy. So Shaughnessy, of course, is one of the only parts of the city, I think the only residential neighborhood that wasn't affected by the multiplex motion that was recently approved, because it's sort of a heritage preservation area. So just want to ask what you think about the idea of adding residential density, different housing types, potentially adding different kinds of shops and services to Shaughnessy. Should Shaughnessy be open to more density, or is that neighborhood kind of off limits?
No, once again, I haven't seen the council package yet. That's Sunday night at 11 o'clock. But, I'm going to approach everything with an open mind. And so to your point around Dunbar, we had a very open mind. The local residents had some legitimate concerns about, the unique nature of that cul-de-sac. And so, we're dealing with that as well. But at the end of the day, we support density in that area.
And then we call in Sean. Sean, there's a question there about poisonous drugs and deaths, which is a significant problem here. Sean, can you read that question, please?
Absolutely. Thank you, Stu. Do you think that drug poisoning deaths will increase or decrease next year? And can the city do anything about it?
The answer is I don't know. But what I can tell you is we're going through a humanitarian crisis right now, and it's absolutely terrible. And so if we had a magic wand, we would have waved it by now. So a lot more work needs to be done on it. Not only, from the city's perspective, but the province and the feds as well.
So when you went down onto the Downtown Eastside and did the removal of the tent city that was down there, at this point now, do you maintain that that was the right thing to do?
Yeah, but not because of an opioid crisis or anything like that. I want to be very clear to the viewers here. Like there are a lot of, crazy things that were going on down there. Put all that stuff to the side. We had a public safety issue there where we were pulling out 100-pound tanks, propane tanks. If one of these things explodes, it takes out a whole city block. I was personally not prepared to have to say to someone's family, I'm sorry your parents or your mom or dad didn't come home, because we didn't have the courage to do the right but hard politically thing to do. Also, if one of those things exploded, best case scenario, we only lose 200 to 300 units of housing. Worst case scenario, 500 people die a horrific death. So we're doing it. And I would enthusiastically, that's the wrong term. There would be no hesitation to do it again, even if that meant that every single person in Vancouver did not vote for me. I'm fine with it, because I tell you, it was the only right decision. And I challenge everyone, if they had those facts, what would they do?
So what's the status on the so-called temporary housing now?
Sir, which temporary housing are you
Well,
talking?
there's a number of temporary housing facilities around the city. What is the status on them? Are they still temporary, or are they becoming permanent?
Well, there's some temporary units that are coming off the books because, they were temporary. I don't think we need pilot studies or anything anymore. The challenge that we have in the city of Vancouver is we have limited land, right? And so instead of having, a 3-story, modular temporary housing unit, let's build something bigger, and we can actually provide more housing. And, the unfortunate thing is there are some transition issues. It does take time to build it, but the better long-term answer is actually saying, all right, we know enough now, let's actually build these units. So that's what we're doing.
So when I started, I said there were no guardrails around today, except for the fact that I was told that you had only 45 minutes. Can you hang for a few more minutes?
Sure, a couple, but I'll be late for the next one.
Okay, but there's a fun question here.
Okay.
Sean, question number 1.
Thanks, Stu. Will the city look at spearheading and executing events like Santa Claus Parade, New Year's Eve fireworks, and this coming year, will there be a Grey Cup Parade?
I don't know, and I don't know. But here's the thing. So let's talk about the fireworks during Canada Day. The Port of Vancouver, they were actually the organization that funded it very generously, and it's in their right to not do it anymore. And we thank them for doing it. We had short notice about that cancellation, but we have a long runway as to what happens next year. And I can tell you, we're going to be working the phones to see if someone wants to step up and put it on and fund it for this upcoming year. Because, what I've said in the past, in some past media interviews, we don't live in la land. Vancouver, we do have fiscal challenges. And if we want to make sure that we don't have, significant property tax increases, we have to make hard decisions like, are we going to spend $400,000 or $500,000 funding, fireworks for one day? Don't know, right? But what we can do is there are a lot of people, a lot of organizations that love this place, who would love to step up and do that. So why aren't we allowing these individuals or organizations to show their, Vancouver spirit and do something great for the community? And they want to do it. And if we can do that, we've changed the paradigm in the city of Vancouver. We can have great events and we can still be fiscally responsible.
So Jane Talbot from the Downtown Vancouver Business Improvement Association has a question for you. Jane?
Thanks, Ken.
Hey, Jane.
Hi, nice to see you.
Good to see you.
A year ago when you won with enthusiasm and excitement from the business community. You talked about some of the things that you're proud of, that you've accomplished over the last year from a big picture perspective. I'd like to narrow in on our small businesses. They're still struggling. It's tough out there. They're still recovering economically from the pandemic. What are you most proud of, or what do you think you've advanced for them over the last year?
I think, look, I'm acutely aware of what happens with our small businesses because we actually have one on Commercial Drive. I'm not going to mention the name because it'd be bad form here. So it could, but I'm not going to plug them. Okay, so I live through the frustrations, or actually my wife, Tina, because I'm not involved in the business, she lives through the same frustrations of trying to pull a permit in a timely order, property taxes that are more than base rent, going after getting a patio permit, so totally get it. And we're working on that. Some of this stuff will take time, and I wish we could wave a magic wand, but we're dealing with a big bureaucracy, and we are changing the culture, and that's going to take a little bit of time. What I'm most proud of, I think what we're most proud of as it relates to small businesses, especially in the downtown core, is we stopped that road tax. That road tax, it would have affected every single business from Clark and 16th all the way through downtown and to the west side. I couldn't imagine if it actually happened and people stopped coming downtown because they'd have to pay a fee. That would have blown a hole through most of the businesses there. It also would have affected housing affordability because every single trade that has to work downtown to build a building, build a housing tower, guess what? They're going to have to pay that fee. And any business owner, developer, whatever, they're going to pass the cost on to the consumer, which is the person who's going to buy the place or the people that rent it. And so that would have killed affordability in the city of Vancouver as well. So, we avoided, that was a near miss. That could have been really bad if that was implemented. And make no mistake about it, that was a real thing.
Final question to Dan from Adam.
So one last question. Obviously, you come from a business background. I get the impression you're focused on not only processes, but results. 3 years from now, when you're interviewing with your bosses, the voters of Vancouver, to try to get rehired, can you think of a key performance indicator, one specific result that you think the voters of Vancouver should judge you on? Something that hasn't been accomplished yet, but that within the next 3 years, you think you're going to get it done, and people should judge you on that.
It's hard to answer that question, so I'll give you a different answer. We were very clear that we were running on 94 points. I'm a big believer in you do what you say you're going to do. And so when we're looking, when election time comes, 2.5 years from now, I think the voters should just look at that list. It's out there right now. So we're being very transparent. If we've hit a significant portion of those, I think the voters should be, pleased.
So is it official you're running for re-election?
So I'm committed to hitting 5 personal goals, that I keep dear to my heart. And as soon as they're achieved, it's my time to leave. And I do not see that happening in, the next 2.5 years. Some of these things will take time.
So it's official.
It's pretty official, yeah.
Thank you very much for taking the time to be with us today. We really appreciate your candor and your willingness to take questions from all sides. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And thank you to viewers. And please join us on November 21st at 7 p.m. when we have an extraordinary panel looking at a very important topic for us in Canada, and that is economic reconciliation. Until then, thank you, and we'll see you. Thank you for tuning into Conversations Live, an Oh Boy Productions program. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can find our previous and upcoming episodes at conversationslive.ca. You can also follow us on YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. Again, thank you. I'm Stuart McNish.